Morning, everybody. This is Bobby Piton here with Preactive Investments, and I'm going to talk about what's going on today. Let me see here. In the stock market right now, futures are slightly up after a little bit of a sell-off yesterday. And so I'm going to go over some of the top stories and kind of go through this pretty quickly. As I'm doing this, I'll be creating other types of numbers, as I progress over the next few weeks, giving people some more information that kind of sums up how we're doing across industries as well as sectors, so that people have a better idea of where there might be some opportunities and such. And so with that, I will be going through the stuff right now. Let me see here. Okay, so interest rates on mortgages. Right now, interest rates have ticked up slightly year over year on mortgages in this country. And basically, they're still super low by historical standards. A 30-year mortgage is 3.23%, up from 3.08%. That's a 1.15%, which is really not that much money. It's $150 per 100,000 per year. But the news out this morning is that was enough to kind of slow things down, with regards to home building or new mortgages. So not necessarily home building; those two aren't tied; those are permits. But the mortgage rate going up is credited with slowing things down. There's some news that came out that's extremely disturbing. I guess China has launched a cyber attack against Microsoft's email server. This is a really big deal. Microsoft is one of the most valuable companies in the United States. It's worth almost $2 trillion. Their servers for email are probably some of the most widely used in the whole, not just the nation, but the whole world for that matter. This Hafnium group out of China is taking responsibility for this hack. And, this has been a super big concern of mine for, at least a decade. I always worried about machines like even these little Google Chromebooks that are out there. They're assembled and created in China. You're asked to put in your Google information to go to your Google Drive and your Google email. And there's no assurance that I've ever felt like I've read about. And I'm not someone who knows how to take apart these things and look into the chips. But that China isn't spying on us all this whole time that we've been producing our PCs over there. And who's to say they don't have time bombs and other types of nasty things in the code that they write here, i.e. they send over Chinese nationals, they get educated at our universities, and meanwhile they're agents of the corrupt, evil Chinese Communist Party. It's a serious issue. I think that the United States, we have incredible resources at our disposal, like one of them being, the NSA. I'm a big fan of the NSA. I think it's one of the most important critical agencies this country has. And in fact, I think it should probably be expanded as far as I'm concerned. I know that sounds controversial to most, but in what I mean by that expansion is any goods and services that we bring into this country from other countries that are digital, software, hardware, any type of chips, they should be assessed using mathematics and statistics to see if they've in fact been compromised and whether or not they're just Trojan horses or Trojan devices. And Microsoft is as valuable as it is. I'm sorry, it shouldn't be responsible for our national security. It's just a publicly traded company. And neither should Amazon and neither should Google. We, the people, through our some of these agencies, should be responsible. Now, granted, I do think that we should create private companies or private organizations that do the same thing and serve as a check on government, because the government, as we've seen, can become very corrupted, very insular, and very tied to some of these these criminals in other countries. And we've seen it time and time again. They do these side deals that we don't know about. And who knows how much of our foreign aid has been siphoned off into foreign accounts through these side deals because we're helping other nations. You know what? We need to stop helping them and help our country first, because we got 10 million people out of work and we've just been getting fleeced for decades. Okay, so now, with regards to, I mentioned it yesterday, Joe Biden mentioned that, just call him Joe. I understand that he's listed as the president of the United States, but I have a hard time believing that he's president, and it's just the way it is. I'm not saying he's not my president, because maybe he is, and so I don't really know. Who knows what's going on behind all this other rigmarole that's out there? But I'll just call him Joe. So Joe, who's a big fan of China and loves China, I can't help but think that this attack is happening because they know that Joe is going to be soft on China. I don't know. That's above my pay grade, but it's something that we should definitely think about and consider, and the people within our federal government should explore that possibility. In terms of Texas and Mississippi, they've lifted all their virus restrictions yesterday. That's awesome news. And, I did a piece on this virus with regards to the CDC numbers, that came out in 2018. And there's like 34 main classifications of death in this country. And, that the bulk of all the death occurs within 34 categories, like heart disease, cancer, et cetera. And it's not called cancer. It's got a more medical name in it. I forgot the name. But when I did that, when I pulled that information down, you can go to cdc.gov and look at it for yourself. And I went through all the states in the country, and then I kind of pulled out how many people were classified as unidentified deaths. So there was no classification metric for those deaths. They just, I guess you can call it natural causes. That number of unidentified, or U deaths, kind of like you voters, there's U deaths, was over 600,000. And I've been waiting patiently to see what those numbers look like in 2019, what they look like in 2020, because I'm just curious if all of a sudden those U numbers go from 600,000 to maybe they drop to 300,000, and 300,000 are now classified as something else. I'm really, really curious to see how those numbers have fluctuated, and how many of the other classifications of other illnesses that Americans were dying of, just suddenly just kind of dipped. And all of a sudden, everybody, same percentage of the population is dying of these ailments. But then when it matters politically, it drops. And then this other one that is, a big lightning rod for sucking money out of the federal government goes up. And so, I will stay on top of that. And I'm not sure when those numbers are coming out, but I will definitely look at it, because I think there's some funny business going on with those statistics and those reported numbers, because there's a strong incentive for the states to lie so they can get more federal money. There, I said it. Yes, states and individuals within those states that run those said states do lie and kind of fudge the numbers or push the numbers a little bit so that they can get more money from the federal government. And the problem is, you have one state do it, it's one thing, but when all 50 states start to do it, it becomes a huge problem. Now, I'm not saying, I don't know how many are doing it, but I definitely have a very high degree of confidence that at least one state in the United States is lying about the data. So, okay, Bezos was in the news with regards to this Elizabeth Warren ultra high net worth tax. I am 100% supporter in agreement with that tax. Anybody with over $50 million of assets should pay a 2% tax, which comes out to $1 million a year. And then if you have over $1 billion, you pay 3%. You know why? Because look at what these people are doing. They create these charitable trusts and these nonprofit foundations. They journal all these hundreds of millions or billions of dollars into them. Then they avoid paying any sort of tax indefinitely. And then they use that money to weaponize all of our agencies, all of our government against us. They fund, they have an unlimited pocketbook because there's no campaign finance reform. Institutions and these super PACs can just donate money to completely roughshod over the will of the American people. So if you want to go back to feudalism, then you should be against the estate tax. But like right now, when you have one person out of 1,000 Americans, just so remember that ratio, you have one family out of every 1,000 families in this country that has more wealth than essentially all other 999 families combined. And I'm talking about the families that are worth up to 50 million. So keep in mind the starting bid to get into this group is about 42 to 47 million, I think. So, the 50 million is like you have to be a little higher up in the group, that top 1/10 of 1% to start paying those taxes. But I do think that we need to institute that as soon as possible. I never thought I would agree with Elizabeth Warren about anything, but I definitely agree with her on this point because I'm seeing the damaging effect on capitalism. Don't believe me? Look at all the small businesses that were destroyed last year because they didn't have a voice because these mega corporations controlled by these elites that are in top 1/10 of 1% just roughshod it over them, and they didn't care. Walmart was open. That Walton family did just fine. Amazon, he made a lot more money as well. All these companies did great at the expense of the average American entrepreneur. They're trying to annihilate the entrepreneur class and then the high net worth class, which is about 5 million to say 40 million. That 5 to 40 million, don't kid yourself. You keep letting this ultra high net worth just run away with the show and the monopoly board, they're going to knock you guys out next. They're going to weaponize our government agencies and say, hey, go after this company. It's a competitor. I don't like them. You know what? This one has some problems with the way they're taking care of compliance with their employees. Go look into them. All you have to do is look at what the FBI has done and other agencies. If you don't believe that, that's really within the realm of possibilities. Okay, and the last thing, Lyft, car sharing. They're saying it's making a big comeback, which is a good sign that people are less concerned about this virus. And there's a company called Rocket Companies, which had a massive short squeeze. It was up over 70%. And I will talk about that one in the PM session. Now, I'm going to do a little more work on it. I do have a short talk about short selling. You can check it out on my page here on YouTube. I'll do a different version that's a little shorter. Pardon the pun. Have a wonderful day, and I will talk to you guys soon. Thanks.